Cavs fans, what's going on? Spencer German with you. Spencer Davies on scene at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse after a win for the Cavaliers tonight over the Denver Nuggets, 126-114, your final score. And you want to talk about games that are somewhat of statements. You know, they beat the Celtics a couple of nights ago. You get the Nuggets in town. It's a pretty big deal for a team that obviously won a title a couple of years ago and is still one of the top contenders in the West. And Spence was there to witness it all. Spence, a couple of different things that stand out tonight. Obviously, the three-point shooting for the Cavaliers was superb. They had their season high, made 22 of them. Also, four guys scoring 20-plus points tonight. What were some of the just overarching things that kind of stood out to you in this game, and what was obviously a big-time win for the Cavs?
Defensively, really, man. I know that the Nuggets do not take a ton of three-pointers, but they do have decent three-point shooters on the outside, like Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon, who's back only in his third game since getting hurt, but still has such a huge impact for their team. They were just making everybody drive, and they were making Nikola Jokic beat them as a scorer rather than as a passer, and I think that formula really worked out for the Cavs. Cleveland gave up 76 points in the paint. If you see that on a box sheet, you're probably just like, what are they doing? Are they just letting a layup line happen? And that was the case for the first half. Kenny Atkinson wasn't too happy about that. They shorted up a little bit in the second half, but it turns out playing the math game worked out because the Cavs, like you said, they made 22 threes. The Nuggets only attempted 24. So this just kind of goes back all to the analytical minds and how the math kind of checks out in this situation. And the Cavs, they were hot, man. They were just firing on all cylinders, whether it was, the walk-up triples that Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland were hitting, the catch shoots. Caris LeVert was on fire early, had 14 points in the first quarter, really found his rhythm for the first time since he's been back from that knee injury. Just have a ton of different threats. Evan Mobley, I'm sure we're going to get to him, 3 threes tonight and took 5 of them. One of them was a step back. Now, that was because the shot clock was expiring, but still a development that you'd like to see there. But the overarching thing for me is defense. It was interesting because, the Nuggets, they turned over Cleveland a little bit, and they did have, I think, 28 fast break points. And you would think, man, they're not doing a good job enough of slowing them down, but the Nuggets just live in that transition type of area. Russell Westbrook's been making a living off of that for his entire career. Christian Brown, also very good in the open floor and got him a couple times. But, I mean, they ended up responding fine, and this is one of the cleaner offensive performances I think we've seen from the Cavs in a little bit. There was no bogged down anything. Maybe, towards the end of the game when the Nuggets cut it down to like 9. But overall, the ball was popping, the movement was great, and everyone was sharing the ball and touching it.
Yeah, I think what's one thing, as you point out, just the ability of this Cavs team to play sort of different styles and do different things. I think in previous years, not that you didn't have confidence in them, but as they were sort of this young team on the rise, you could go into a game like you did tonight and you'd feel like, okay, it's cool that this team, like the Nuggets and Jokic is in town and all this different stuff. And let's hope they put up a good fight, right? But I think now you get some of these matchups against some of the better teams, the Western Conference, the team like the Celtics who came into town Sunday, like I mentioned, and you feel like they have a legitimate chance. And that's kind of the byproduct of the start that they've gotten off to, how well they're playing right now. But it's kind of a cool, dynamic. It almost takes you back to like the LeBron years in a way where you feel like on any given night, this team can compete with any of these teams, and they're going to have different ways to attack you. And it's something that Kenny Atkinson has really emphasized, is being multiple in the ways that they can play, the styles that they can play. And like you alluded to, they showed that tonight with the ability to kind of run the Nuggets off the three-point line while knocking down a lot of threes and maybe giving a little ground inside. But yeah, it was kind of seen in terms of games that they played or ways that they've won before, but it worked. And it's another win, I think, over a quality team out of the Western Conference.
Absolutely. I mean, the Nuggets, they haven't been whole this entire year. Yeah. I know that Aaron Gordon's missed quite a bit of time. Like I said, he just this is his third game back, and they still have to kind of find their identity in that regard. Their bench has not been the strongest suit outside of Russell Westbrook. Julian Straw, they're still trying to find his rhythm. I think that Peyton Watson does give them a number of different looks defensively, and he's really versatile in that regard. And he's still kind of finding his rhythm as a 3-point shooter. But really, I mean, the Nuggets play their starters very heavy minutes, and the Cavs again utilize their depth to kind of get a leg up on them. And Sam Merrill again is doing a lot more than just 3-point shooting. The small pick and roll I thought with Donovan Mitchell tonight was great. I asked him and Donovan and George Niang, who was with him in Utah back in the day, about that kind of natural chemistry. Please go to our YouTube page if you're not already on it. They had some really good answers about why Sam and Donovan have such a natural chemistry together. But that's a twosome that I think is really advantageous for the Cavs. Sam has a lot of gravity. Teams pay attention to him when he's on the outside, so much so that they forget to defend him when he puts the ball on the floor. You don't see him put the ball on the floor a whole lot, but these past couple games, he's really been touching the paint, either making play for his teammates or just taking it straight to the bucket. He just blew by one of the guys on the – I forget who was defending him, but it looked like Denver was just straight up surprised when he just put it on the floor and just zoomed past him for a layup. It was one of the coolest things I've seen. Even the people in the crowd were like, what? So, Sam has just become this multifaceted player, and defensively just the commitment to that end of the floor to keep bodies on bodies and even just get his hand in the cookie jar a couple of times. He's doing a great job, especially this last week of coming off the bench and giving the Cavs a good spark.
Speaking of coming off the bench and giving the Cavs a spark, Caris LeVert had one of his consistent in rhythm performances tonight. He can be a streaky shooter and a streaky player at times, but tonight was what you hope to see from Caris on a more consistent basis. Obviously finished as one of those guys who scored 20 points tonight, scored 20 plus points tonight at 21, which was the third most on the team. Just what did you see from Caris and what kind of encouraged you about the way that he played tonight in this matchup?
Knowing his spots and taking care of the basketball. I think the first 3 of his threes were coming from the corner of that wing area. Those are really his spots. He could have had another one. He could have been 6 to 7 from 3 had they not taken away a buzzer-beating 3 that he hit at the end of I think it was either the third quarter, I think, where he just launched one and it went off the glass. But the ones that he's been getting in rhythm, the catch shoots have been looking really good. He's not pulling up quite as much. He's still getting into the paint, getting his teammates involved, but taking care of the basketball and keeping his opponents kind of off rhythm defensively. And that's the Caris we know. Caris has been back for a week. I asked Kenny about it pregame. How long does it typically take a guy that's coming back from injury, especially a nagging knee injury, to kind of get his rhythm back? And, Kenny was just like, yeah, it just looks like his timing's a little off, but, we trust him and he's one of our best players. And lo and behold, kind of the crystal ball, he goes off for 21 tonight and goes 5 of 6 from deep and is able to do a whole lot on the defensive end. Again, I keep going back to the defensive end, but just the way that he's able to deflect the ball, play the passing lanes, be on his man on ball, and also the awareness off ball. Him and Dean Wade, really, who's played his second game since coming back from an ankle injury. Just getting those 2 back has been huge for this Cavs team, just from a sense of the defense and obviously the output they can do offensively.
You mentioned obviously the night that Evan Mobley had and the performance that he kind of gave you with the 5 3-point attempts. That honestly, Spence, I mean, we might have to fact check this, but that might be a career high, or at least ties the career high.
It might tie. Yeah, it might tie.
In terms of how many he's taken in a game. Was that something that felt like it was kind of like in rhythm, in the flow of the game? And is, people have talked so much over the last couple of years about Evan taking more threes. I don't know that that's going to be a prominent thing for him, but just what did you make of the performance that he had, especially kind of bouncing back? I know earlier in the week, didn't have the greatest performance against the he's kind of turned that around since.
Yeah, 100%. I think Evan's just confident stepping into it right now. Kenny joked with us after the game about how he looked at Evan after he took his 5th 3-pointer, and he said, "I want you to take the bad ones." And I don't know why it was, considered a bad one in the moment, because it was actually with the shot clock expiring, but it was a off the dribble 3. I don't think we've ever seen Evan Mobley take an off the dribble 3 in his career yet. The other ones came with the catch-shoot variety. One in the corner on the left, Donovan said that was his favorite one because he had his feet down and he was stationary. He didn't like hop into it or have any weird footwork. He just kind of let it fly, and it was working for him. So that was big time for Evan to show that confidence, and he's gaining more confidence as the days go by, as the season goes by. And it's going to open up a whole lot for the Cavs if he's able to stretch the floor out like that with more than 1 or 2 threes a game. Kenny said that probably that 3 to 5 attempt range is probably the sweet spot, more than 5 to 10. But that was very convincing and very a good development for the Cavs in that regard. And I also want to say too, Evan Mobley had a drive where he went left. I still don't know why teams aren't forcing him the other way. I know he's a two-handed player, but he's strong going left. You don't want him going left against you right now. He was able to just kind of slither by a couple guys with a little 1-2 step and then hammered down a dunk. I think he just got through when it was either Porter Jr. or Aaron Gordon, and he just kind of went by him. You got to see the play for yourself. I'm sorry we don't have the highlight, but just another way that it just shows his development and shows how he's maturing as a player. It's really something special.
Kenny Atkinson is the guy credited with turning Al Horford, who was obviously just in town with the Celtics the other night, and Brook Lopez into the three-point shooters that they are, as kind of bigger guys, generally playing the center position, maybe power forward. So, I mean, like, listen, I think anybody who was hoping to see Evan take that leap with his three-point shot, tonight's a good night in that regard. And like you said, Spence, they're going to have opportunities for him to keep doing that throughout the season in spurts. And if he can find success, it's only going to help the Cavs space the floor more and make him more of a dangerous threat on this team. So hopefully that continues to be the case. I know you mentioned before we got going here, and we saw it on during the game, Isaac Okoro did get injured in this game, but what was kind of said afterwards about him in terms of his status?
Left knee contusion. Kenny said it's no big deal. Just like last game, how, DG and Donovan ended up being fine after they collided with Valanciunas. Okoro just bumped knees with someone, but left knee contusion. He did not come back tonight, but seems to be okay. And Kenny was just like, what a luxury it is for me. Well, when Okoro goes down, that I'm able to just put Dean Wade right in there with the starting lineup. And obviously Dean looking good, looking firm, and is moving well. So that's good for the Cavs in that aspect. I did want to shout out a couple guys too before we wrapped up. I thought that Darius's passing tonight was superb. He only had 4 assists on the stat sheet, but the way that he was moving the ball and just the difficulty of some of these passes, that he just makes look so easy.
He looks like he's playing with more and more confidence every night.
His vision is like something else.
The first out this game, maybe he took a step back, but it's like when he's rolling, and it's a good thing to see.
Really rolling. And also, I mean, he took 10 threes, some of the catch shoot variety, some of the pull-up variety. Same with Donovan Mitchell. He was not bashful tonight. I mean, those two combined had 44 field goal attempts. They actually were their least efficient players of the evening. But they also had 28 and 24 points. So what are you really going to complain about? Jarrett Allen, on the other hand, has a tough assignment on Nikola Jokic. Anybody guarding Nikola Jokic is going to have a hard time. Kenny was very impressed with Jarrett because he got Jokic to take 26 shots and only make 13 of them. That is a victory against Nikola Jokic. It's a 50% night and making him non-efficient.
He's ridiculous, right? Like 27 point, 20 rebound, 11 assists, triple-double.
In his sleep.
What?
In his sleep.
Maybe, honestly, this is more of a podcast topic at some point, maybe, but like I don't know. Like Jokic, he seems like he's something made in a lab, and he's kind of like the most boring player. Like nothing in his game is like, he's not like this great like leaper who's like dunking on dudes, right? But he's a cheat code. He just does everything in basketball so well, and he makes it look so easy that it's just like, who the hell made this person in a lab? It's absurd, but he's so good.
He's as Kenny described him. He's the quarterback, and they just kind of kept him in the pocket, kept him making shots within the profile that they wanted. He didn't really step out to three too much. He only took 3 of them. Didn't really hurt him too much as a passer. They did a darn good job tonight, and a lot of that credit's got to go to Jarrett and Evan, really, for making sure that they executed that game plan. And yeah, my favorite Jokic stuff is when he's throwing the behind the neck passes, and when he's just doing these things that, the long home run passes that are 3/4 court, the spin moves. Like, he actually had a transition opportunity today where he finished it. I had no idea how he did it. But he's a fundamental player, but he's also just a wizard with the basketball. That's the best way I can describe it.
So next up, the Cavaliers play 2 games this weekend, both on the road. They go to Charlotte on Saturday. Then they're in Miami on Sunday. So back-to-back. Spence and I joked on the podcast this week that there's no chance for the South Beach flu to kick in because you're doing it on a back-to-back. But I still think, Spence, like that game against the Heat, that Heat team, no matter what their record says they are, like they are a team that is always going to push you with the Heat culture thing. And Eric Spoelstra is one of the best coaches in the game. And because the Cavs have struggled against that team over the years, I just think like that's a chance for them to sort of prove, I think show where they are in terms of a team and the growth that they've made this year. So I think that's an important one. And then they're off for a good stretch after that until next Friday, as some of the in-season tournament games kind of take place. That'll be their next home game against the Wall. It'll be a little bit of a test for them, I think, coming up, Spence, because we know they have that West Coast trip later in the month, turning into the new year. So a chance to sort of test them a little bit coming up down the road here. But that's kind of what's ahead. And I don't know, like, how do you feel about that matchup with the Heat?
Well, look at you looking over the Hornets like they're nothing.
No,
I mean, come on now.
Listen, the Hornets they're a fun team. Ball LaMelo can.
Brandon Miller is the guy you got to look out for there, bro.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, he's a player.
How do you feel about both these games this weekend then, Spence?
Okay. So the Hornets game actually, I think, could give them a little bit of problems because they're fast. The teams that give the Cavs the most grief are the ones that are long and athletic. That's very similar to Atlanta that we saw last week. I think Charlotte's one of those teams that is like that. Brandon Miller, LaMelo Ball, just long, lanky guys offensively. And then, they just have – I think that Moussa Diabate is somebody that can really give some problems on the rebounding end of things. They've got a solid bunch there. Cody Martin, another guy who plays his butt off. So that game, especially with a 1 p.m. start time, it's kind of funky. That one kind of concerns me more than probably Miami's does, just because of the pace that game's going to be played at. Miami, on the other hand, when you play the Heat, you're going to be on the second night of the back-to-back. That's going to be a half-court game. That's just typically how the Heat play. They're not very fast. Tyler Hero's been doing excellent at running their offense. Jimmy Butler, he's kind of a mixed bag right now with his age. He obviously is an amazing closer still, but you never know what side and what type of Jimmy you're getting these days. So keep an eye on that. Bam Adebayo's not been the greatest on the offensive end, but he's still a great dribble handoff guy, roller, and obviously a defensive player of the year candidate every year he's in the league. So
yeah,
that one's going to be a slower game. I think Charlotte, the way that they play and how fast they play, and we saw it too here in Cleveland. They are a game bunch. So
yeah,
that's those two. And then just real quick, yeah, they have the Wizards here next Friday, but in between they might. It's like an in-season vacation for them now. Now that the Cup's going on, they're going to have 2-3 days off, and then they're going to get back to practice and then play the Wizards on Friday. And then obviously the schedule goes along.
Yeah. With how well they've played, how much they've played, the back-to-backs they've had to start the year, honestly, like missing out in the tournament actually could serve to benefit them, getting them a little bit of a rest period here in that next week leading up to some of those games and later in the month. So we'll see. And you mentioned just like the pace of play in those two games.
Very contrasting.
Yeah, like if you're able to push against the Heat, great. But the problem is like second night of back-to-back. And if you're in a game before that against the Hornets where there's going to be a lot more the pace is going to be sort of more up-tempo, it's not going to be quite as easy on the second night of back-to-back to push the ball up the floor. So, yeah, I think you're right. It is going to be more of a half-court game, and we'll see how those two shake out. So, Spence and I obviously will do our best to be on breaking it down with you post-game over the course of the weekend. We do want to encourage you, as always, to follow along at Cleveland Cavaliers on SI, the website, si.com/NBA/Cavaliers. We got a bunch of written content up for you from this week and obviously throughout the weekend. Also, though, guys, head on over to the Cleveland Cavaliers on SI YouTube channel. Spence, always doing a tremendous job. He texted us before this video that there was a ton of video content from tonight. So
6 of them, guys. 6 of them.
There's
six videos up there for you.
7,
right,
including this one. So you can find all that. I said to say after the game. Unfortunately, Spence did not get to talk to one of Jokic's brothers. They seem like 2 interesting characters. I don't know if did you talk to Cavs Frog? That's still my dream.
I bumped into Cavs Frog on the way down to the press conference room.
You'll never wash your arm again.
It was bumping shoulders. It was this big inflatable frog.
Did you tell
yes,
frog
she follows
me follow me on Twitter? Did you tell the frog she needs to follow me on Twitter?
Didn't quite get there.
Come on, man. You're supposed to look out for me. I wasn't there tonight. Come on.
Maybe that's why she wouldn't, though.
I gotta do everything myself, huh, Spence? Come on. Guys, we appreciate you jumping on in with us. Like I said.
It's a podcast joke, by the way. Subscribe, like, comment, courtside with Cavs on SI.
Yes, please do that. And otherwise, guys, have a great rest of your night. Have a great start to your weekends. And we hope to connect with you guys over the weekend. For Spencer Davies, along with all things Cleveland Cavaliers, with the Cleveland Cavaliers on SI.